see you guys in the dark.
I guess it all started about 3 or 4 years ago when I'd been working at my first job for about 2 years. That was the year that I would meet the two men that changed my life forever, one for the better and one for the much worse. The restaurant I worked at had been bought out by a big company, so there was a big overhaul in staff and everything else, a whole new set of managers and some new wait staff as well. One of these men would become my boyfriend 3 years later, and we're still very much in love now. The other, let's just call him POS because I can't even think of his name without getting upset. POS started as a manager at that time. I never took much note of him. He was nice enough and seemed funny. I worked there for a while, getting closer as a friend to my current boyfriend. I then left that job for a good 6 months before returning to it. At this point, most of the staff had changed because of high turnover. I only knew about 3 of the workers, one of which was POS at Flash, to about 1 year later where him and I are okay friends and I'm well into dating my boyfriend. He starts telling me compliments and love bombing me. He constantly found my weak spots and tried to make them better. He always tried to buy me things and get me to work more hours with him. I learned many things about him during this time. I started to notice how very unstable he was. The dots started to connect, and I remembered how many fights he'd gotten into in his defense or for the restaurant. I stared thinking about his weapon collection and how off his voice was when he said, "I had you picked out from the moment I met you." In my biggest moment of weakness when I felt ugly and vulnerable, he made me feel pretty, and I made what I believe is the biggest mistake. In my entire life, I listened to him. I sent him pictures that could destroy my relationship. I was naive in believing in all the ways he related to me. He was just a great liar. He even joked to me about his masks and his 9 other personalities. I want to go back and slap myself for not putting it all together faster. The crazed look he got in his eyes sometimes, his breakdowns. So much of it were red flags that I didn't see. He knew how to manipulate me and the people around me. None of it even hit until about a week after I quit that place. Then one night out of the blue, he starts messaging me. Things start escalating because I had told him there would never be anything between us the last time I'd seen him. He starts ranting about justice and how he could see through me and my lies. He said I needed to tell my boyfriend about us, or he would. I told him there wasn't an us and that it wasn't his business. He kept insisting that he loved me and that we needed to be together. He couldn't take no for an answer, even though he kept asking and asking for me to tell him it was over. I told him and he couldn't take it. He kept calling me a crazy bitch and trying to gaslight me. I'm thankful that I was strong enough not to believe him and to completely cut him off from my life. Then it got worse. He started talking in third person, calling himself Jack the Ripper, saying he was going to find me and find my boyfriend. I was panicking in my room, crying and throwing up, all while trying to deal with this. I asked him what he wanted, and all he said back was you. I've never felt that kind of fear before. I started thinking about how much I love my boyfriend. My amazing, perfect boyfriend who has been with me through everything, and I calmed down. That's when I marched to my boyfriend's room, sit him down and tell him everything. And we talk, and he forgave me, and it hurt, and I still haven't completely forgiven myself for hurting him that way, but I'm hoping one day I will. I messaged Paus and told him I already told my boyfriend, and that he didn't have any more power over me. He then started grasping at straws, threatening my other job, where I work with children, even threatening my PlayStation account. He's a genius, he's insane. I called him by his name while he was talking in other personalities, and he told me to call him Jack or there would be consequences. I blocked him on everything. I deleted my Facebook. I disconnected myself from everyone who works there, and I spent an entire day speaking to police and the principal of my work. While talking to the police, they told me that soon he'll find someone new to target so I could rest easy. But that didn't make me feel better. I still felt sick because even if he's not fixated on me, that doesn't mean some other poor girl deserves him to do that to her. That experience with the police changed me. What do you do when someone says you have to be with them or he'll kill you and the person you love? I didn't know, and I still don't. I still have nightmares. That Friday while I was driving home from work, I got pulled over because an anonymous person called in describing my car and license plate saying I was drunk and on drugs. Wonder who that was. I calmly explained to the officer that I was coming home from work and gave him my case number. I got about 8 calls a day from different random numbers for about 3 days after. Months later, after so much therapy and work, I see him twice, in one day. I know his car, so I pretty much get anxious whenever I see the color or make of that car anywhere. One day, my worst fear happened. I was just on my way to a doctor's appointment and my turn was literally one light up. I pull up to a car that is way too familiar to me, and I notice that there is no way for me to escape. He knows my car, my windows aren't well tinted. I see the shadow of his hair move and know it's him, and my stomach rolls. I pull out my phone and call my mom, shaking so bad I had to redial twice. I ended up making 5 different turns to get to the doctor instead of one, and I parked very hidden. I was very proud of how calm I was when I walked in for my appointment. It was very hard. After my appointment, I meet with my best friend and we go to walk her adorable dogs around her house. This guy knew where we were because my car was right there at my friend's house, and I see familiar movement from the corner of my eye. I seriously went cold. I see him walking and start to cross the street to the side where we are at. I didn't even say anything. I just dragged the dogs around the corner and kept turning and going until I felt safe. When I explained to my friend what happened, she helped me calm down, and honestly, I'm just very thankful she was there. I am now writing this 7 months later. I'm still undergoing therapy from this, but I have started to do something very important. I've been reclaiming my space and my mind. I have slowly started to reach out to old coworkers from that restaurant. And I even went outside of the restaurant to say hi to managers and servers I used to know. I found out the next day through my good friend that works there that he said he was uncomfortable with me being there. I laughed. I genuinely laughed really hard. And then I went back for the next 3 days to pick my friend up from there. Just to make a point. I haven't been strong enough to go inside yet, though. So many of my nightmares are placed there. I can smell it. I can hear the glasses clinking, and it makes me shake. There's a certain shade of blue he wears, and if I see it, it makes me shake. In every dream I have, that color is always lurking in the background. His presence is always felt. There is a big festival that includes that restaurant every year. It's so much fun, and it would be the first year I could go in 4 years because I always worked it. My friend invited me to go, and I was hesitant at first because this is somewhere I knew he would be. But I went, and sure enough, when we passed the restaurant, he was wearing the blue shirt. And instead of seeing him from the corner of my eye like I had on my dream, I looked him in the face. I got so angry, was just insanely pissed off, and honestly pretty anxious. I just kept walking and forced myself out of the funk. I'll be posting updates if anything more happens. It all started in high school. I was a naive, shy, and awkward 14-year-old when I asked this one guy to our school's Sadie Hawkins dance. I knew him from a mutual friend of ours, but we really didn't talk. All I knew was that we both liked anime and manga, and that he was kind of quiet most of the time. So I wanted to be nice, and I asked him out to the dance. That was mistake number 1 that started the years of torment. He said yes, and we agreed that we would just meet at the dance with the rest of our friends. A few hours later, I get a message on Facebook from him, and it's a long message telling me that he always had a crush on me, that I was beautiful, and that he couldn't compare my beauty to anything else because he considered that an insult to how beautiful I was. It was pretty cringy, but at the end of it, he asked if I would be his girlfriend. I was uncomfortable after reading the entire message, but again, being the shy and awkward 14-year-old that I was, told him yes, mistake number 2. He was ecstatic. He asked to call me that night and asked for my phone number, and I gave it to him, mistake number 3. He calls me later that night, and I learned a lot of things that I did not want to know. One of the major things was that this guy was a massive crybaby. I'm not trying to say that men that cry are weak, but this guy would cry at everything and would always play the victim. Felt like all his friends didn't like him. Cry, no girl other than me would love him. Cry, teacher failed all of his assignments even though he openly admitted he didn't want to do any of the work. Cry, the list goes on, but I'll get to more things later. I also learned that night that he had a foot fetish, and now that I had his girlfriend, he was going to do so many things to my feet. Again, not trying to shame anyone, but as a 14 who didn't like showing off any part of my body, I was uncomfortable, and when I went silent, for a little bit, guess what he did? Cry because I thought he was a freak. His words, not mine. I told him no, I didn't think that, though I was starting to. He instantly cheered up. He continued to call me every night, and the conversations usually were the same as the first night he called, until the night of the dance. At the dance, he mentioned he never had his first kiss, and how sad it was. I already had my first kiss at this point, and I'm so glad he wasn't it. I kissed him at the dance just to get it over with. However, throughout the night he would try to kiss me even more, and even tried shoving his tongue in my mouth. It got so bad that a teacher had to pull us apart. Of course, he goes off to sulk and cry. After the dance, I get a text from him saying how magical I made the night for him, that the kiss was delicious, not exaggerating, and how the stupid teacher didn't understand our love. Again, not exaggerating. I was feeling pretty sick to my stomach at this point and wanted to break up with this guy, but I stayed a little bit longer. Mistake number 4. 2 days later, he asked me out on a date to the movies. Stupidly, I said yes, and he asked if one of his best friends could come and if I could bring one of my best friends since his friend found her attractive and wanted her to be his girlfriend. I told both of them no because he wasn't her type, and in all honesty, she hated him. They keep pushing me to bring her, but I kept telling them no. His best friend calls me killjoy cunt, and he did his usual thing of crying because he didn't get what he wanted. We go to the Lorax that night, and his friend sits behind us. The second the lights go out, he turns my head and starts kissing me and pushing his tongue into my mouth. I tried to push him away because I was not going to let him to do to me the entire movie. Again, his friend is right behind us, and he keeps trying to kiss me. Movie ends, and when I get home, he sends me a text saying he was depressed and a picture of my feet would make him feel better. I told him no, and he threatened to kill himself, and it would be all my fault because I didn't send him a photo. Horrified at how fast he snapped, I sent him a photo. Next night, he asked if I had been naughty lately. Knowing where this was leading to, I told him no. He then starts crying about how I was cheating on him and that I had been being naughty with other people, and again he threatened to kill himself. I tried to calm him down by telling him that I was a virgin and was not a sexual person at all. He suddenly, as if on a dime, stops his fit and asks me if we could just completely forget about what just happened. I tired telling him that what he did was incredibly inappropriate and was about to tell him to leave me alone, but he pulls the victim card again and starts crying. During the crying, he asked for another picture of my feet to calm him down. Scared he was going to snap again, I sent him another picture. This continued for a few more days until he would try and message me whenever I was busy at school, babysitting, volunteer work, etc. Accuse me of cheating, tell him what was going on, him saying sorry and playing the victim and asking for pictures of my feet to calm him down. I eventually had enough, and after 2 weeks of dating him, broke off the relationship. He cried, of course, and begged that we at least stayed friends. School year was ending, and he said he was transferring to a new school, so I figured I would never see him again. Wrong. Beginning of the school year, he would message me, and when I didn't respond, cry and threaten to kill himself. After a while, I just started to ignore the messages and threatened to call the police if he didn't stop messaging me. Thought he would have stopped after that, right? Wrong. Every year up until I turned 21, he would message me random things at random times. Examples: hey, my friend, we're friends, right? Can you send me a pic of your feet? I miss you. I'll leave you alone if you want me to. I'm pathetic, aren't I? And so much more, and each time I ignored him and finally blocked him on every platform he tried to contact me on. Fast forward to 21, I'm in college, a ways away from my town and from him, and have a boyfriend. I get a notification from Instagram saying he started following my profile. I quickly block him, and not even 5 minutes later, I get a message from Facebook from a random profile I didn't know. The message read, "Why did you block me on Instagram?" I lost it. I sent him a long message telling him if he contacted me in any way, shape, or form, I would get a restraining, and told him how damaging that would be to his reputation and his future career. Again, he played the victim and told me that he couldn't believe he fell for a liberal bitch like me, and to never contact him again. Never heard from him again, and good riddance. A few months later, I get a message from a girl who used to date him as well. She told me he used to threaten to kill himself and cry if she told him she ever left him. I was 16, going about life and trying to score well in tests to go to a college of my choice. He was in the class adjacent to mine. I've never spoken to him. I've only seen him around here and there. When school was about to end, he sent a slam book through a friend for me to write in. I found it very weird because we have had absolutely no contact, and I refused to write in it and told her that I didn't know him, so I wouldn't. On the last day of school, while I'm waiting in the parking lot, he and a friend come stand in front of me and start saying things and making hand gestures. I don't say anything, so I just walk away as the car arrived. He then started calling up my aunt. I'd given everyone at school her number and talking to her. It never struck me as excessively odd because she never could remember his name and she just told me it was one of my classmates. He was trying to get into a similar college to mine, so they just talked about that. A year later, a friend calls me and tells me that he came to her house asking information about me. He apparently told her that he liked her so much because she was friends with me. Her dad was at home when it happened, so he told her to inform me. She thought I knew about him, but I didn't. He was apparently also going around my town looking for me and asking other people about me. She told me about how he followed me home and that she found this out from someone else, but I had no idea about that either. Then I remembered all of the times he and I were going in the same direction, his vehicle coming behind mine. But I brushed it off, thinking that it was because he lived nearby. How very wrong was I? I was 18 and I was coming home for Christmas vacation and saw him on the way to my house. He was with a friend. They started following me. I had to get my passport renewed, so I needed to schedule an appointment. For that, I went to the office, and as I was telling them some personal info, he came in and started to make small talk with one of the men there. I got out after my work there was done. His friend and him were on the other side of the road to where my car was parked. I went home, but it didn't seem like they were following me then. But it doesn't matter really, because they already knew where I lived. I checked my phone after I got home, and I had a message from an unknown number around the time I was in the office. It was him. He introduced himself in it. I immediately blocked him, and he messaged A from another number this time. The message said that his motive wasn't to mess with me and that he never talked to me in school or did anything else because of the same. He would delete my number, everything he had as a reminder of me, and that this would be his last message if I thought so. It ended with him saying that he just wanted me to know that he liked me. I blocked this number as well. I found it very creepy that he had to delete my number and everything he had as a reminder of me, mostly because I don't know how he got my number, and we've never interacted for him to have things that remind him of me. I thought I saw him just outside my backyard the next day, but I just rushed inside and locked the doors and didn't dare peek out the window. The next few days I was looking out the window every now and then, making sure there was no there. I felt unsafe in my own home. I got back to college when I got a call from an unknown number. Because I'd given my number for official purposes, I don't always know who exactly was calling me, but I still picked up because it could have been important. It was his friend. He said I had no right to just block him like that, and that I did not know how to respect people. He said the stalker changed after what I had done to him, and that I was ruining his life, and that the stalker did not know that he had called me. He said he didn't want me to be the reason for the ruin of someone's life, so he was telling me this. In order to undo the damage I had done, I needed to talk to the stalker. He was very demanding and pushy. This is from 5 to 6 years ago. I 24F, live in the Midwest, and I love anime and manga. I was really interested in heading to a con, so two of my girlfriends decided to go with me to one of the larger anime cons in the area. We arrived, and at first it was a lot of fun. However, I soon met a man who was overly creepy and made my time unbearable. I can't reveal too much about it, but he was apparently a guest to this convention and has some sort of YouTube career. He doesn't even talk about anime or manga, so I thought his presence at the con was weird. I would have said something long ago, but the group he was a part of has a rabid fan base that in the past defended a rapist, so I have been fearful of the repercussions of telling my story. I was walking the convention when he spotted me, and he instantly seemed to light up and rushed over to me. I was very nervous. I never thought I was much to look at, so his interest seemed weird to me. He tried to make some sort of small talk, like asking if I liked to cosplay. I am sort of round, but I am very proud of my legs, so I jokingly said if I cosplayed I could probably be the Green MM. His seemed to really like that idea and kept pressing. The way he looked and leered made me very uncomfortable. I made an excuse and joined my friends and walked away from the creep in the tiny hat. I wish that was the end, but throughout the 3 days he would continually try to find me and talk to me. What made it worse was the fact that he had his girlfriend at the time with him. She seemed busy, and he tried to sneak off while she was busy with other things to try and flirt with me. But it always felt very uncomfortable. In fact, I tried to bring her up, saying wouldn't she be upset that he was flirting with me, and he said he could convince his girlfriend to be okay with it, and then called her Lady Boy, which I found weird. The whole situation felt so disgusting, and every time he found me and rushed over to talk, I felt like I wanted to crawl into a hole and die. Maybe this isn't stalking per se, but he made me feel so uncomfortable I had to say something. After this convention, I looked him up and found out he goes to the 3 major conventions in my area, so for my own peace of mind, I don't go anymore.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.